What's up, guys? This is Jeremy with Ghost Nation Barbecue and welcome to my channel. So this is the inaugural video on the Ghost Nation page, and today we're going to make something near and dear to my heart, one of my absolute favorites. We are going to make the Oklahoma onion burger. Now, I am going to show you guys how to make this from start to finish, starting with this big old piece of chuck roast all the way till we get those beautiful, delicious, oniony, cheesy burgers. We are going through this journey together, so let's go. Guys, first things first, we are gonna get this meat cubed up and ready for our meat grinder. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take this chuck roast, and I just picked this up at one of my local grocery stores, just a chuck roast. We're gonna get this thing cubed up and ready for the meat grinder. Now, a meat grinder that you're gonna wanna use, you're gonna need to cube this thing up pretty small. I use a KitchenAid meat grinder, so I have to make these cubes relatively small to work really well. Now, depending on the grinder you have, you might be able to get away with some bigger chunks, but what I got, like I say, I need some relatively small chunks. Now, this is a step making these burgers that you don't necessarily have to do, okay? So you don't have to grind your own meat. In fact, if I was gonna shortcut any part of this process, it would probably be this part, just because it's a little time consuming. You know, not everybody's got a meat grinder, I can appreciate that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get this thing cubed up. Now, I'm gonna leave all the fat on here pretty much. So you want, for a good burger, you're really gonna want, 80-20 blend. Now you can do this a couple of ways. If you're gonna grind your own meat, you can take all the fat off and measure this out and figure out exactly what an 80-20 blend is. I have discovered with chuck roast, it's pretty fatty cut. So really, just cutting up a chuck roast is probably gonna be all right. I'm gonna get this thing cubed up, and anytime you're gonna grind meat, you're gonna wanna freeze this meat. It's gonna come through that grinder a lot easier if it's a little bit frozen. Now, you don't want it rock hard. That's not gonna be good for your grinder either, but when I do this, I'm just gonna put it in for 30, 40 minutes, somewhere in there, just to get it a little bit frozen so it'll go through our meat grinder cleaner. So we're gonna get started with that. I'm gonna put this stuff in the freezer, and we will see it again in about half an hour. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna prep some potatoes for French fries that we're gonna make. So this is a pretty easy process. You can see I already got one done here. Really what we're gonna do, I'm gonna cut off an end of this, just kind of the end, so we can get nice and flat there. But what we wanna do is we wanna cut these potatoes into strips. So if you want them thicker, make them thicker. If you want them thinner, make them thinner. That is totally up to you. But I just wanna make sure that everything is uniform. So I always am going to err on the side of being a little bit thinner. We don't like super thick cut fries around here, but hey, whatever you want totally works. So once I have this kind of cut into my strips, I'm gonna cut this down into fries. So I like to do them together so I feel like I get better consistency that way. But again, all you're doing is cutting these into fries. So you can see that everything is gonna be a pretty uniform size and shape. That's perfect. So when it comes to making these fries, we have a couple of ways that we can do this. Now, what I'm doing right here is cutting them all up. Then we are going to boil these fries. So you have got a few different ways you can make fries from home. The first one would be to double fry them, which I wouldn't do anything less than a double fry. It's just gonna give you a much better consistency in your fries, a lot more crispy. You're gonna wanna at least double fry them. Now, if you have the time, which I do today, I'm gonna take a page from the chip shops in England where you get your fish and chips. If you will boil these first and then double fry them, I promise you it is gonna make all the difference in the world. You will be shocked at how crunchy these fries are, but they're so fluffy inside, they're gonna be perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I got the pot of water boiling over here, got my potatoes chopped up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let them sit in this water for a minute, bring out some of that starch, and then I'm gonna boil these off, put them in the fridge and let them cool down. All right guys, so once this water gets up to a rolling boil, just like this, I'm gonna do what I always do when I'm boiling pasta, potatoes, anything. I am going to salt this water liberally, all right? So I'm gonna put quite a bit of salt in there. I'm not sure what kind of difference it makes, but this is what I do every single time. So I'm gonna take about half of these potatoes, all right? And I'm gonna go ahead and just put these babies right in this boiling water. So when I am doing this first boil on the potatoes, like I said, this isn't a 100% necessary step, but this is gonna change your fry game, okay? If you've got the time, do this step. I would say never ever do fries without at least double frying them, but if you can add this extra step, it's gonna change the way you make fries. I'm telling you, these will be the best fries that you will ever have. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these in here, and like I said, I'm gonna do it in 2 batches just so I can make sure that I don't overcook anything, undercook anything, and you are not cooking these all the way through at this point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna boil these for about 5 minutes just to soften them up and get that process going. So by the time that we start frying these, it's gonna be the fluffiest fry that you have ever had in your life. So stick with me. I am going to boil this first round, then I'll boil the second round, and we will be back. Guys, now that we have given this meat a little bit of time to chill up, we also put this in the freezer as well. You wanna keep everything as cold as you can during this process. We are gonna get this thing fired up and we're gonna get rolling here. We wanna get this meat grinded up so we can get the burgers formed. I'm just gonna start putting the meat in there. And we just recently moved, so I don't have the plunger for this. That's all right, I'll just use this. Anything will work. These little KitchenAid mixers are pretty good about getting this meat grinded up. So we're gonna grind up this whole batch, and then we're gonna form our patties after that. Guys, now that we got all of our meat grinded up, we are gonna form these into our balls for the patties later. So I'm gonna form these into 1/4 pound patties, which is gonna be roughly 4 ounces. So what I'm doing is I am using my scale here. This just gives you a better idea. You want all your patties to be uniform. So I always use a scale, not necessarily necessary, but I do it every time just so I can have consistent patties. So we are gonna form these into our own little meatballs, and that way we can get exactly the same patties all the way around. Let's see here. All right, perfect. So what we're gonna do, I'll get all these patties fixed up and we will get to cooking. All right, so every good burger, in my opinion, has got a burger sauce on it. And every burger sauce is going to start with mayo. Now, you can absolutely just use store-bought mayo. There is no problem with that, but I just think it's so much better when you make it yourself. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make a quick and easy mayo. That way you guys can start from a place where you have phenomenal ingredients. So the first thing I've got is 3 egg yolks. Now one of them broke in there, but that's okay. I have got about a teaspoon of lemon juice. Okay, that's a fresh squeezed lemon right there. I've got about a 1/2 teaspoon of vinegar. That's just white vinegar, pretty regular stuff there. I'm gonna use about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, all right? Now I'm not a big fan of Dijon, but that's okay because you're not gonna really taste Dijon. So I'm gonna add just a healthy little squeeze in there. And then I'm gonna put in a cup of oil. Now you can use really any type of oil you want. This is olive oil, but it's kind of the low taste olive oil, so you're not gonna taste it that much. Use anything you want oil wise, but kind of a neutral oil, something that's not gonna have a whole lot of flavor, is really the best. So I'm gonna pour these ingredients in. I'm gonna give everything a chance to set for a second. and I'm not gonna season yet. I'm not gonna season until I'm done blending. So once I let it sit for a second, everything's kind of separated, I'm putting my stick blender in here. I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom, all right? Now, I'm gonna let this baby run for a second and before I start pulsing up and down. So let that go for 10, 15, 20 seconds. When you start seeing the mayo coming up to the top, that's when you're okay. So I'm gonna just slowly start raising and lowering here. And then I'm just gonna blend this until it's nice and thick. Okay, now that we got our mayo made, looks like mayo here, we're gonna continue with our burger sauce. Now, every burger sauce is probably gonna have ketchup in it, just kind of part of the deal. So I'm just gonna pour some ketchup straight in there. This is, go by feel too on this stuff. So the stuff like sauces and things like that, do exactly what you want. If you like certain flavors, use certain flavors. I have got this jalapeno mustard here. It's a local thing that we've got. I'm gonna put some of that in here. Beautiful. Texas Pete's. I always like to put a little bit of hot sauce in my burger sauces, so I'm gonna throw some Texas Pete's in here. Okay, gonna throw in a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Now, most burger sauces are gonna have some kind of pickle element to it. My wife is not gonna put this on her burger, so instead of using pickles, I actually chopped up some jalapenos, some pickled jalapenos. So I'm gonna use these for this burger sauce instead of traditional pickles, which would probably be, you know, that's more what people are gonna use. So what I'll do from here is I'm just gonna get this mixed up and you will see it later on my burger. All right, so it is go time. Our oil is hot and it is time to finish off these fries. Now let's go through this process again. What I did was cut all these potatoes into fries and then I boiled these potatoes, okay? Put them in the refrigerator for about an hour, just so they're completely cool, completely dry. Then I did my first fry, which I forgot to video, so that one's not gonna be on here, but I did my first fry on these at about 300 to 325 on my oil, so you want that to be a pretty low fry, okay? We are not trying to get these done, not trying to get them crispy even, we just wanna get that first fry on there. So now that we've done that, I am going in for my second and final fry. So yes, this is a 3-step cooking process, but I promise you, this is worth it. This is gonna be the crispiest fries you have ever had. All right, so I got that batch down. I'm gonna do these in a little bit smaller batches. I might actually do it in 3 batches. But I've got this oil at right at 375 to 380. So this is gonna be our second and final fry. Once we have got these in here, we're gonna let them fry for 6 or 7 minutes. Just at this point, you're looking for color. They are pretty much cooked. So they're gonna be nice and soft as they are. You're pretty much looking for color. Once you get that deep golden brown, you know they're gonna be super crunchy and they're gonna be perfect. All right, we will finish frying this batch up and I'll be back with you in a minute. Now that these fries are golden brown, we are gonna take these things out of here. And I'm just putting them in a bowl that I've got lined with a paper towel. I'm just gonna throw these right on top of the other ones here. And we're just gonna get all of these out. And once I take these things out of here, I mean, almost as soon as they hit this, I wanna put some salt on these things. And I mean, I'm gonna put a couple of big pinches of salt on here. And a nice fat pinch of pepper. And then I am just gonna go in, get all these tossed up, take that paper towel out and boom. Hit them with a little bit more because we like them salty. These are the best fries you are ever gonna have. Listen to that crisp. I am telling you, these are going to be worth the time. What I wanna do is get started on the onion portion of our onion burger. So, this is just a sweet onion. That's what I like the best. Use any kind of onion you like. Now, I'm gonna use this Mandoline because the key to these burgers, in my opinion, is getting super, super thin onions. So, you want them to be, I'm talking crazy thin. The thinner they are, the more they're just gonna kind of melt into this meat as we cook it. So, I'm not gonna do a ton because we're only making 4 or 5 burgers here, but I just wanna nice big pile of these paper thin onions. Take a look at that. So these are like, I'm serious, I mean, they are super thin. So now that we got those done, we are almost ready and we're about to get this burger rolling. All right, first things first, I am toasting up some buns. So when it comes to these burgers, these are gonna cook pretty freaking quick. So they're not very big and they are gonna be pushed out pretty thin, so they're not gonna take long. So when it comes to stuff like the buns and the other stuff, I just wanna get this stuff ready. So that way, when it is go time, it is go time. So I've got these buns in here. We're gonna let these cook up some and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so it is time to get these burgers rolling. You can see this pan is hot and I put some beef tallow in here just to really get this thing going. I don't want anything to stick. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take one of our burgers that we made. I'm gonna sit it right here in the middle of the pan. Let that thing start cooking a little bit. And I am gonna grab what seems like too many onions. All right, I'm gonna put a big pile of onions on here and just let this baby sit for a second. So you want some of these onions to start getting in contact with this pan right away. You're almost gonna burn some of these onions. I mean, that's really kind of what we're doing here. So once it's set here for just a sec, I got my onions on. I am gonna smash this thing. And when I say smash, I am serious. You want this thing as flat as you can get it. Any onions that are on here, pull those off. And we're just gonna let this baby sit for a minute. As you will see, we have shaved these onions so thin that they're almost just kind of melting into the meat. Some of these over here are already browning up too. So this is exactly what we want. This is, in my opinion, the perfect Oklahoma smash burger right here. It is nice and oniony. We're gonna let this ride for a sec. The only real seasonings that I'm gonna use is a little bit of Lawry. So I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit on this side and I'll sprinkle a little when I flip it over. That's it. And again, this is just Lawry seasoned salt. That's all I'm using there. Let this thing ride for a sec because we wanna make sure that it is nice and crusty on the bottom. Okay, ideally with these onion burgers, any smash burger really, you're only gonna wanna flip this thing one time. That's best case scenario. So we want to sit here and we want to let this thing really start to caramelize on the bottom there. You can see these onions that are kind of around the pan are almost disappearing. So let's take a look. I'm going to get up under here with my spatula. Let's give this thing a flip. That is looking awesome. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this side go ahead and cook. Those onions are gonna kind of cook into that meat. I'm gonna throw a piece of cheese on here and we are done with this patty. All right, so we are all done cooking. Let's assemble this burger and we're gonna give this thing a shot, man. I am so excited. I wish you guys could smell it in here. All right, so first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go in with our burger sauce that we made earlier. Got the mayo, the ketchup, the mustard, some pickled jalapenos in there. I'm going a little sauce on bottom, little sauce on top, okay? Then I am taking these patties. I'm just gonna manhandle them because I'm a man. I'm gonna put them right on top of this burger here. I don't wanna miss out on any of these onions, so I'm gonna go ahead and put those on top as well. Dry my hand off. Then I'm gonna take a few extra jalapenos just because, you know, that's how I like to roll. I like to add a few jalapenos on there. I'm just gonna put them right on there. Boom, that is it. I don't wanna go too much toppings when we're talking about these burgers. I want to focus on the meat and those onions. All right, so we have got our burger done. We've got our fries done. Get in here. We're going after it. All right, I'm gonna get right in, do the little hunch. Oh, guys, you are gonna want to make this. I promise you. These are the best burgers in the business. Got some of our crispy fries too. Let's throw it on. Man, that is what I'm talking about. Give this thing a shot tonight. I promise you. Your friends, your family, you're all gonna love it. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. We will see you next time.